What is going on, guys? This is the Bride Cry and welcome back to Smite 2. I know that I have kind of backed off of my videos for Smite. I haven't posted in a little while. That is because Smite got to a point where it got very stale. Not a lot of people were playing it. The player base dropped significantly and high anticipation for Smite 2. This made me not want to indulge in Smite and want to wait for Smite 2. Smite 2 is now officially in alpha, where it can be played full time for anyone that owns the Founders Edition. I know that they dropped a email that allows people with the Founders Edition to give out codes to their friends so that they can play as well. I think they're just trying to allow as many people in as possible, just because the player base for Smite has always been kind of small, so they don't want to get to a point where no one's really playing the game and queue times are just a lot longer. That's kind of what happened with Smite and made it a little bit less fun to play, because you were just sitting in the menu getting re-queued over and over again, because anyone who didn't get the role they wanted to play or got queued into support just skipped the queue, waited their timer, and played a different game. So you're just recycling queues and people just weren't selecting. And that happened in casuals as well as ranked. So we're going to start off our videos with our Smite guides. We're going to talk about Anhur. We're going to go into what to build, intelligence, strength, how that kind of differs from Smite. We're going to talk about their abilities and their passives, where they belong in lane. Also talk about two different builds that you can build for them, one crit based and one attack speed / power build or strength build for Anhur. We'll go into his abilities first. First, talking about his passive, very straightforward. Anybody he deals damage to, it reduces their protection. So he's going to be very good in group fights. He's going to be very good pinning down and destroying those tanks and frontliners, those warriors trying to invade your backline, those tanks in the front line just trying to draw your attention and trying to peel. You're going to be doing a lot of damage, getting them out of the fight so that your team can pin down the damage, win the fight, win the objective, push towers, things like that. With his first ability, it's going to be his obelisk. This obelisk drops down and leaves a circle of sand. Anyone within the sand, you deal additional damage with your basics to. They also get slowed. The obelisk itself acts as a physical object or a wall. Anyone that hits this has to go around it. It is an impassable object. It pairs very well with your second ability, Impale, which we'll talk about in just a second. This is very good ability when you're in a group fight. It's very good for chasing down single fights, slowing people down, pinning them to the obelisk with your two, things like that, just to finish a fight off. But also very good if you're in an objective fight, or if you're in a fight where you're starting to win and the enemy team is trying to run away. Dropping this down on top of them and slowing everyone, giving your jungle the opportunity to get behind, and giving your tanks and your warriors in time to invade in or get past, because they're moving at a slower pace. You can allow your warrior to get past that front line, that tank to dive into the back line to finish off fights. So very good. You would throw this down, basically just this spear for the amount of time that it's down, or this obelisk for the amount of time that it's down. And again, like I said, slowing everyone within the circle, and you are doing additional damage. So really good for just initiating fights, dropping down those frontliners, dropping down those tanks and those warriors so that they have to get out of the fight, leaving the damage alone. And that's it. As soon as you get rid of the frontliners, the entire group fight is over. Your team cleans up, or they give up the fight and you win the objective that you're fighting for. Maybe a tower, fire giant, gold fury, things like that. For his 2, this is his Impale. You throw a spear forward. This spear will push anybody. The first god that it hits, it pushes them forward. If you hit an object with them, they get stunned. So if you throw down your obelisk and then throw your spear, this is going to pin them into the obelisk. This also works on any physical wall in the map. So if you're in Conquest, if you're in Arena, whatever map you're playing, if you hit them with the Impale and they pin into a wall on the map, they also get stunned. Now, you also have your leap. This leap does a little circle around. When you land, it's going to knock back anybody you hit. It's very good. It has a very good range. It's good for chasing people down. It's also good for getting you out of combat. You can jump walls with this. You can jump into the jungle. You can get out of combat very quickly. You can also chase into people, or if you hear someone taking their camp through the wall, you can jump into it and take the camp if you know and you're confident that you're going to win that fight. Obviously, don't be jumping into camps if you know it's probably 2 when you're one person and you're jumping into a support and a carry all at once. And if it's a Ymir, you get frozen, and just so on and so forth, things like this. But yeah, just a leap that knocks back anybody that you hit, throws them away. Really good that you time this and use this correctly. If you are trying to use it as an escape, obviously you're not bouncing into anyone. But that being said, If you are in a group fight and you are chasing the fight down, you guys are winning the fight, you're trying to finish people off, take them off the board so that you have more control of the battlefield, whatever you're doing. Using this ability to knock, it's going to knock them in whatever direction they are in the circle. So if you jump past them, it's going to knock them back. If you jump before them, it's going to knock them forward. Same thing, left, right, wherever you want to aim them, that's where you need to jump. This is very good if you have someone with you, if it's 2 people, if it's a group fight and you're trying to get someone pinned down, jumping in front of them is going to knock them back into your team so that they can finish them off. So using this as a way to knock people in the direction you want them to go is very good. So you knock them back, you turn around, you can even hit them with an impale and continue pushing them back into your team. It's kind of hard to tell there because he died, but you would knock them back. You can then turn around, throw your obelisk, pin them against it, or throw your spear and push them even closer to your team. You are literally a control god in this situation where you're trying to get someone pushed back and push them into your team and separate them from their team. There are situations where you don't want to do this. You don't want to jump into combat if you're jumping into 5 people to try to push them back into your team. But if you are chasing one person, maybe 2 people, or everyone's low and they've kind of fully gave up, and you just want to get control of one person and make sure you pick that person off the board, then you can use this to jump and knock them back and pin them into the other team. Now, going into his ultimate, you throw spears forward, multiple spears. This scales at 40% per tick, and then you get 80% on your final hurl. Now, this ability is very good for finishing people off. This ability makes you CC immune. So if you're in a situation where you're about to die, you're about to get stunned. If you get stunned, you're probably going to die. If you get stunned, you're going to be surrounded, things like that. You need to get out. You pop this ability, you're CC immune. You can back away from a Ymir freeze or things like that. You can also just use it to move towards someone if they're trying to freeze you to get away. The spears themselves can pass through any object. That means if you're throwing these spears, you can throw them through jungle walls. You can throw them through any object that is usually impenetrable through your basics. Very good for if someone's trying to run from you and they leap over into the jungle. You know they're low. All you got to do is hit one spear. You pop this ability, you're going to throw that spear through the wall. It's going to hit them. It's going to kill them. So very good. Now, talking about where Anhur belongs. Anhur is going to belong in the carry lane almost every single time, though you can play him in the mid lane just because of how much proc he has, how much ability damage he can do, but I still think he shines in the ADC. I'm also sure you can make a case of playing him in the jungle, especially right now where gods are very limited. He's very mobile, he's very good at slowing people down, his abilities are good for pinning people, he does high damage. So yes, I could see a case where you could play him in the jungle, where you could play him in the mid, but he is an ADC, especially with the builds that I'm going to show you. He does a lot of basic attack damage, and that scales up with your strength. Basic attack damage is 100% strength scaling, 20% intelligence. So if you just benefit from building all of these strength items, you're going to be doing a lot of damage. So his ADC game is unbelievable. Really, Anhur could be played anywhere other than support, probably. You could play him in the solo lane and do a lot of damage, though. The thing is when your group fights come into later games and you're getting into group fights and that solo is usually a warrior who's supposed to be diving those backlines, you now can't do that because you are the warrior has more sustain. He has an ability, he has a way to take more damage so that he can get back there, do damage, and get out and not die instantly. You do a lot of damage, but when you dive into the backline, you've got 3 damage dealers around you. If any of the tanks or warrior turns around to counter you, you're pinned and you're dead instantly. So solo is like, okay, you could possibly and most likely probably will win your lane. You're going to lose the team fight in the end, which is not something you want to do. So unless you win within the first 15 minutes and really bully them, it's just not going to work out well. So ADC, mid is your second, and then maybe jungle, and then definitely probably not solo, but I mean, I could see a case for sometimes where it would work, but in your higher ranked games, it's not going to work. And then definitely not support. Going into builds for Anhur, this is very straightforward. I'm going to give you 2 different builds. One's going to be a crit build and one's going to be an attack space build. That being said, the first 4 items from your starter and your first 3 items that you build, because your starter gets its own slot, so you technically get 7 items. For the starter, it's going to be the same every single time. You're going to build Leather's Cowl. Leather's Cowl is going to give you 10 strength and 10% attack speed. And then when you are near an allied god within 8.8 meters, you get additional attack speed. Really good for group fights, especially in the end game when you move this into Hunter's Cowl. We'll talk about that in a second. Now, when you are near anybody, when you're in a group fight and you're in that back line and you're just pecking people away in that back line while being defended by your team, you are getting that additional attack speed. When you are alone and you need to get out and you're running away, maybe in your lane, you get additional movement speed, or you're chasing down and you're in that 1v1 with the carry when the support moves off your lane. This gives you that additional movement speed to chase them down or to get out of combat. It's very good for getting away. Leather Cowl upgraded scales and gives you an additional 20% attack speed or 10% movement speed. So it doubles. So very good. Then that's going to be your starter item. Moving into your next item, it's going to be your lifesteal. This is going to be this again, the same for both builds. You're going to want to build Devourer's Gauntlet. Devourer's Gauntlet scales differently, or is built differently than it is in Smite, where you actually get your stacks based on damage dealt to minions, jungle minions, and enemy gods. So you do every 600 damage dealt, you get a stack. This is doubled for god damage. So if you do a tick of 90 damage on your basic attack, that's actually going to be 180 damage towards your damage dealt for your stacks. So it's different. It's not based on kill. It's based on damage dealt. So you're going to be wanting to do a lot of damage to minions, a lot of damage to jungle monsters, and constantly cycling onto your lane, into the jungle, doing your camps to make sure you're getting this built very quickly. But that's going to give you your lifesteal and your strength. Very big for a first item. Then you're going to go into Dagger, which is Dagger Frenzy. Now, this is something they've added in Smite 2. You have actives. You have to be conscious of making sure you're popping this. Dagger Frenzy gives you 40 strength, 15% attack speed. Good base stats alone. But then you have your active. Every 50 seconds, you can pop it to gain 40 basic attack damage and 30% attack speed. That is massive. That is going to win you a fight. That is going to win your 1v1s. That is going to win your group fights. That's going to put you in a situation where as soon as a group fight starts, you can take and focus the tank wherever he is, trying to, peel people off, or even if the warrior dives you in the back lane, you pop this active, you are going to absolutely decimate them. Very good item. It's also very good popping this for, when you're taking objectives if you want to finish it quickly. So Dagger Frenzy is going to be your second item for both builds. All right, your next and final item for both builds that's going to be the same is Executioner. That gives you 30 strength and 15% attack speed. When you damage an enemy god or jungle boss with a basic attack, gain the piercing effect, granting you 10% penetration for 4 seconds. Stacks 3 times, so 30% penetration when stacked full. So very good for people with protections. Again, you are the frontline killer. That tank will not stand in front of you for very long without getting absolutely melted. That warrior is going to have to worry about you when he's diving the back line. That anybody with protections that's trying to dive on you is going to get absolutely obliterated. If you're hitting your basic attacks, not necessarily worried about focusing on hitting your abilities, but just hitting those basic attacks, taking them down very quickly. This build, no matter what you do, these four core items are going to make sure that whoever you're looking at hitting with your basic attacks is going to be hurting, especially if you're focusing in on your tanks and your warriors, whatever situation you're in. If the warrior's not diving and you've got that tank just trying to peel or trying to kind of grab aggro in the front line, just making sure you're hitting him with your basics. He's not going to stay there very long. He's going to move off. It's going to give you guys control of the front, and then the damage is left by themselves because he's got to run. Very good. Now, going into
they should fear me now.
The attack-based build first. You're going to build Quinn's Blade. So Quinn's Blade gives you 20 strength, 25% attack speed. Your basic attacks deal bonus physical damage to gods equal to 3% of their max HP. This item is big. Again, you are the tank killer. Your goal in the beginning of a fight is to try to do as much damage as fast as possible to that front line. May it be the warrior diving you or the tank trying to grab attention in the front or trying to peel. The more damage you do to them removes their tank, gets their frontliner out, so that you can start focusing on the damage. They have to give up the objective. Whatever you're focusing on, may it be a tower, may it be Fire Giant, may it be Gold Fury, they have to give up because the tank's gone. It's now just damage. And you still have your tank and you still have your warrior. It's just a very good control-based item to build. This is going to be shredding anybody with a high health cap. So your Ymirs, anybody with a warrior, it's just going to be absolutely shredding those frontliners. Very good to build.
More fury for my
After that, you're going to build Serrated Blade. Serrated Blade is very good. It's very good if you use it correctly, if you're always focusing on one thing, and that's dumping your abilities. Serrated Blade gives you 20 strength, 15% lifesteal, and an additional 10% penetration for every non-ultimate ability. So your 3 main abilities that are on cooldown, you gain a stack of cruelty. That stack provides 7 strength and 3 lifesteal. If you are dumping your abilities and you have them all on cooldown, you gain 21 strength and 12% lifesteal. Having that additional strength and lifesteal on top of the base stats and all of your other items built is going to win you fights. It's going to give you the sustain to make sure that you're winning the fight. No matter who's hitting you, you're getting your life back. It's going to give you the additional strength to do that additional basic attack damage that's going to absolutely decimate people, whether it be a tank, frontliner, or a damage dealer. You're going to absolutely tear them down. So making sure that if you build this item, you are always conscious on the fact that you need to be dumping your abilities. You want your abilities on cooldown. You do not want them sitting there, not using them. So when you engage in a fight, throw them all. Throw your obelisk, throw your spear, pin them down, leap onto them. Make sure your abilities are gone so that you are getting the benefit from using this item. Serrated. And then your final item is just going to round everything off for this build. That's going to be Titan's Bane. That's just additional 40% strength and 25% penetration. It's just base stats. Very good for rounding your build off and getting that additional strength, which is a lot. 40 and 25% pen. Again, this is just going to help you pen out anybody that's built protections. Anyone that's built anything that is going to be physical protections that's trying to counter you. It doesn't matter. Now you've got so much pen and so much strength. The build is rounded out. You're going to be shredding them. Now to substitute this build out into a crit build, you're just going to get rid of these 3 items here. You're going to go into Demon Blade. Demon Blade gives you 20 strength, 20% attack speed, and then you get that 20% critical strike. When you critically strike an enemy, you gain 20% attack speed for 4 seconds. So again, increasing your attack speed through crit chance. Very good. Getting crit chance is very good. It doesn't matter if they have protections. Even though the protections will scale some of your basic ability damage down, every time you hit that crit, you're doing even more damage. So after Demon Blade, you're going to want something that allows you to stay on top of the people you're fighting. I like this build a lot just because it makes you a little bit more speedy. Again, Musashi's Dual Sword. I'm probably absolutely murdering the name of this, but it gives you 30 strength and 30% critical chance. This, whenever you critical strike an enemy, you gain 15% movement speed for 4 seconds. This stacks on top of your Hunter's Cowl. So if you are by yourself and you have that additional movement speed, the 10% movement speed on top of the 15% movement speed you get from the dual swords, whenever you land that critical strike, they are not running from you. They might have a dash, but so do you. You are moving a lot faster than they are. You are going to stick to people. You're going to be very quick, especially on these 1v1s. In the group fights, it's not necessarily as important, but in your 1v1s, you are going to, no one's going to get away from you. If you are able to land that crit and maybe you start losing the fight, you are going to be able to get away. Very good item for sticking to people and finishing people off. Getting that additional 30% crit chance bumps you up pretty big as well. And then to finalize it, it's just going to be Deathbringer. Deathbringer gives you 40 strength, 20% critical chance, big strength bump, and then you gain 25% increased critical strike damage. So every time you hit a crit, you get 25% increased damage on top of the additional damage you do already from critting. So very good to round off a crit strike type build. So those are going to be your 2 builds for Anhur. Again, one basically on attack speed and penetration and kind of just natural damage to people, and then the other one is going to be crit based. If you notice that they're starting to counter you out, you just switch off to the regular build. But both of these builds work very well. Now you're always going to be, I'd say like 90% of the time, having beads on her. You already have your ultimate, which gives you beads, but then also having, like, because right now it's a heavily focused, like almost everyone in the game has some type of beads popper. Your Mirror Freeze, your Fenrir Grab. It's just, you want to make sure that you're not going to be pinned down. So having beads on top of your ultimate, basically 2 different sets of beads, if you have them rotating correctly, then you will always have the option to be CC immune and being able to get away. There should be no point in this situation, if you're timing it correctly, where you are getting pinned to a point where you are locked down in a stun and you get killed because of it. If you have your beads and you have your ultimate and you are rotating those correctly, you will always be in a situation where you can get out of fights with your leap, with your just running away and popping those beads and getting out. Or using your ultimate to just move away from the fight and back away. That is our guide for Anhur. Very straightforward. I hope it helps. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I will try to answer them. If you have any substitutes you would do for these builds, leave them down. I am not 100% correct. I am not a god at this game. I have just started playing it. I'm just starting to learn how the intelligence and how the strength works. There are definitely probably builds that are better than these, though I think they are well-rounded. I think they're going to do very well no matter what. Anyway, this has been the Bri Cry. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.